Hello and welcome. I'm Gary Scheib. Thanks for listening in as we continue to talk with leaders in our community. Joining me today is Susan Kammer, the Executive Director of Vision House, an organization here in the Puget Sound area with a dedication to providing transitional housing and support services to homeless mothers and their children. Susan, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, I want to start at the beginning and with the idea of how you founded Vision House. You're the co-founder as well as the Executive Director, and what you guys do. But before the really first thing I want to start with, to start off that idea, is the word vision in your title. Vision. Was there always a vision a part of this project of yours?
Well, people might think we're a little crazy when we talk about vision because, Gabriel wasn't present. There was no bright lights. Our room didn't shake. There was nothing that was really unusual about that night. But for us, it was just a very strong calling. One night, not long after my first son was born, he's 22 now, but not long after he was born, my husband and I had settled in for the evening. We put him down and we were watching a made-for-television movie about a single mom who, through a series of events that were really no fault of her own, she became homeless. And the heartbreaking ending of the story was she had to give her child up to the custody of the state because she couldn't care for her child on the street. And I think maybe because we had a new baby and the thought of not being able to take care of your child just really broke our hearts. And so that night, we just had an uneasiness, just an impression that if we could make a difference, we needed to make a difference. So we felt like that was kind of our vision, to help homeless moms and kids. And like I said, there was nothing that was really unusual about that night, just a real strong impression that if we could make a difference, we needed to move forward with that.
I see. So you didn't have a vision, but you have a vision.
There you go.
Okay.
We have a vision.
And Vision House. So it is a transitional housing for women and children. I mean, that's
right.
Somewhat unique, right? I mean, there's a lot of shelters or transitional housing, but to include a family.
Right.
Is that the tricky part?
Well, I think that's really an important aspect of Vision House, because sometimes if a mother's in a difficult situation, she may actually lose custody of her children. So let's say she's sleeping in the car, the authorities find out, or she's had a baby in the hospital, and they find out that she doesn't have an address. They're not going to release the baby into a homeless situation.
Yeah.
So the CPS may come in and take her child where she has to find shelter someplace. So we just feel so strongly if we can keep that family together, if we can offer housing for the moms along with the children, then we can keep that family together and decrease the trauma dramatically in that child's life as well as that mother's life. So the whole program is homeless single mothers with children.
And so what does transitional housing then mean? It might be a definition, that is exact, or it might mean something differently to a lot of our listeners. So it's not just an emergency shelter, right?
Right.
Okay, so
families stay with us a little bit longer. So typically, it's been a series of events that have happened to a family that have led them to a homeless situation. So maybe domestic violence. Maybe they've lost their job. Then maybe a child gets sick. Maybe there's been a divorce, in the family, and somebody just hasn't been able to hang on to their rent and their apartment or their home, and then something else typically topples the apple cart. Suddenly a child gets sick or a job loss, and then they just can't hang on anymore. So they call Vision House and they go through an application process. And then when they move into Vision House, they've come from a homeless, traumatic situation. On average, the children have had to change schools 5 different times because of the chaos in the family's life. So we're able to move the moms and the kids into the home, and they stay with us for about 18 months to 2 years, which is really a nice amount of time to get that family self-sufficient, get the mom educated and trained, make sure the children are stable, they've gotten the nutrition that they need, they've gotten the medical help that they need, and then we're able to work with them long enough that they can become self-sufficient. So it's a nice amount of time for them to get that training and education to move on to self-sufficiency.
Yeah. Okay. So up to 2 years stability, right. I guess that's really a key part of making that life seem normal from, no address or living in a car or sleeping on somebody's couch or finding a shelter, especially I'm thinking for the child involved or 2 or 3. So So what kind of facilities have you got, Vision House? More than one, right?
We do have more than one.
Let's go with talk about the actual physical facilities and how many beds and rooms and what they're like.
It's such a relief for our families. So they've been sleeping in their car, or maybe they've been couch surfing, which means going from friend to friend, but kind of outstaying their welcome. Maybe they've been sleeping in a hotel. So suddenly, when you get into a Vision House facility, I often hear that I could finally release my tears. Like I can finally relax. I finally know that I've got a long enough stay that I can stabilize. So we have a couple complexes right now in South King County, and then we just broke ground on another facility in the Shoreline area. So it's really a volunteer-driven effort that will house another 20 families up there. Another very important part of our program is not only do we provide the roof over the family's head, we also provide all the case management, counseling, and crisis support that the family needs.
Great.
So I believe so strongly that we know what the solution is to family homelessness. The solution to family homelessness is three things: housing, support services, and time. So when you talk about an 18-month to 2-year period, it takes time for a family to get out of that chaos and into self-sufficiency. So housing, the support services, not only do we provide counseling and crisis management, domestic violence counseling, we also provide money management to help them, learn how to manage a budget, life skills classes, just really everything that a family needs to understand to become self-sufficient. Another very important part of our program is child care. We just believe so strongly that if there's no place for the kids to go during the day, then how can a mom get education and training and become self-sufficient? So a very important part of our program is...
she's got to have a place she can trust to leave her child and feel good about that.
Right.
While she finishes her growing up, I guess,
right.
or ready.
Well, she gets her education and training. And, if a mom's instinct is such, in my opinion, is that she's not going to leave her child just any place, even if it means that she's going to make herself more successful, if that makes sense. I mean, she's going to protect her child first. So the fact that we can provide this beautiful child care center that was provided to us by Connor Homes, they built it on a philanthropic basis for 50 cents on the dollar, which was a great building model for us.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know. They provided this beautiful child care center for us that the kids are loved and they're safe. We have a really low staff turnover rate, so staff that have been there at the beginning of the child's entering into the child care center is often, stays with them through that whole period of being there. So really high-quality child care, so the mom can actually live on site, bring her child down to the child care center, then hop on the bus or whatever transportation she needs to the local community college or training. So it's really a wonderful model. I love the model when you have transitional housing and then you have all the support services also on site.
Great,
it makes it a really great model for self-sufficiency.
How big are these? How many people do you serve at a time, or how many? I guess what's the turnover? You must be new people coming and going then throughout the year. I don't know if that matters much numbers, but
we serve about 100 people a year.
Mm-hmm.
We have 23 families at one time in our South King County residences, our complexes in South King County, and then we have about 100 children in our child care center as well. So that's how many people we're able to serve, about 100 a year.
And you're breaking ground on another facility. That's what you said in Shoreline area, up north then,
yep.
North County.
In Shoreline.
And how you want about the same size? Is that about a right fit?
I like that number of families, about 20 to 30 families on site, because that's a great enough a number of families that we can provide the on-site services. So the facility up there will have a computer lab, after-school care program, the crisis counseling, the counseling offices, a little resident store where residents come and shop for free from items that have been donated. So all the support services will be on the bottom floor, and then 2 levels of housing up above. So I like that size of facility. And that is really, boy, I can't stress enough how community-driven that project is.
Keep going on that. I was going to ask about how a community feels about when a new building like this shows up in their community and what they're...
The community has been so supportive. It's just been amazing how the community has bent over backwards to provide support for this project. Because as many can imagine, with economic times the way that they are, every funding plan for this project fell apart. And so what has happened is probably a group of of 30 different churches, probably about 500 different individuals, businesses, community groups have all kind of picked up the ball and ran with it with this project. So we've got the foundation poured with support of a commercial developer, Graham Construction. Lighted Construction is doing supporting us a little bit on it as well. So we're just seeing an amazing community effort around that project. And if people want to go, just Google Jacob's Well Shoreline, and you should be able to find out quite a bit of information. Fundraising, concerts, sleep outs, spaghetti feeds. I mean, the community is just doing, everything that they can to bring this project through to fruition. And our model is such that we're raising a little bit of money, we're building a little, we're raising a little bit of money, and we're building a little.
So you're not going to be in debt
right.
for many years. You are paying for this as you go.
Right. And yes, it's really an unusual building model, but we just feel like it's really important that we don't have a huge debt for a project, because then how can we support our families afterwards?
Yeah.
Our buildings aren't revenue generating. They're quite the contrary.
Yeah,
when we
I
build
guess
a facility, we provide all the programs. So it takes a lot of money to operate our facilities and to support homeless families. So if we have a huge debt, then that could jeopardize our ability to provide the crisis counseling and the support and the child care and all the other services that the families need. So our intention is to build it debt-free.
Well, we are talking this morning with Susan Kammer. She's the executive director of Vision House, and we're talking about transitional housing for homeless mothers and their children. And the community, I got a couple of questions I really want to go with.
Okay.
I don't know which one to go with first. You talked about how this was being built and volunteers. You said you got some donations half price. How do you keep this funded? It's not a money-making nonprofits that care for people. So you mentioned a lot of churches and people raising money individually. Do you have big donors and grants, or you slowly find the way you do things?
We're
you
still
don't get
looking
public
for that
money. I mean, people want to know this kind of thing.
We're still looking for that really big donor. We're still looking for that one. We're really pretty grassroots. We're a group of committed people who, are typically giving maybe a couple $100 a month. A large group of people are giving small amounts.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is pretty cool. We don't have those huge major donors.
You don't
that
have
are
giant foundations back east that are pumping money on.
Wouldn't that be great?
Well, maybe.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad thing, and we're always keeping our eye open. But it's a pretty grassroots effort. So probably 60% of our dollars come from individuals who are just giving sacrificially. We do get some grant money. I don't want to lead you to believe that we don't get any grant money. So some foundations give dollars. Medina Foundation, the Seattle Foundation. So there's a lot of pretty generous foundations that believe in the cause and also provide. And then we do collect a small amount of rent from the clients who are able to pay.
Oh, okay. Because a lot of them are working. I mean, a lot of people don't know this about homeless. They are working, many of them, most of them actually, are the working poor. They just can't afford real rent.
Right. Some of them, maybe about 50% of our families are working. And we collect 30% of whatever they're making. So if they're making $100, then $30 is their rent. So it's not a huge amount that we collect in rent, but it's just enough to have them working toward paying rent in the future. When you get out into the real world and real market rate rent, you have to pay your rent. So by collecting a little bit of rent, then that allows us to be their landlord. So we can say for 2 years, this person has paid rent. So it gives them a little bit of credit history, a rental history.
And a reference, too.
A reference, right. And it really works in their favor. And then because of the counseling and support that we give, we can sometimes forgive that as well if something happened, or we know that there's a medical bill that needs to be paid, or a child needs immunizations, and we can forgive that rent as well.
Well, now we're still talking about the community, and we're talking about paying for things, but how about do you rely on volunteers to, like, I guess beyond the facility building it, but how about running it and running some of these programs, or the child care? I mean, supervisors that do that and things like that. Is it volunteer based as well?
We are very volunteer driven. I always feel when people make a contribution to Vision House, let's say you give $100 to Vision House, we will stretch that to $200 and make sure that you're getting a good investment by our use of volunteers. So we use volunteers in every aspect of construction, from our architect is volunteering their time, our framers, several of our engineers, our project manager,
Wow.
our general contractor. Our on-site supervision are all volunteering their time. But then as well, groundskeeping. We have groups come out and work on our play fields. We have volunteers come in and tutor our kids. We have a large Christmas tree giving program where places like Costco and REI and Midas, some of those locations, put a Christmas giving tree in their entry.
Oh, yes.
And that helps to get the word out about, what we're doing. And then people take a tag and they give a gift card for the family. And the family can shop for what they need, consistent with their culture. And then it also helps to give a gift card, because then the mom can buy something that for her child that she knows that her child is really going to love. Mm-hmm. That she gets that joy of shopping and having her child open something on Christmas morning that she knows that they love, versus somebody else buying that for their child. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So for us, it's empowering for the mom, and it's just kind of a nice way for us to do it. So we use volunteers. I can't think of an area that we don't use volunteers at.
Well, how about if people want to give like in-kind donations, like a gift card? But I'm thinking of toiletries or something, diapers, food to be brought by. Do they cook on site? Do the residents cook for themselves, or is there a community kitchen that they all share and you have a paid cook? Or
we have individual apartment units, so it's really helping them to set up for self-sufficiency.
Okay,
so we
good
don't
idea,
have group meals. But sometimes people will bring by things like the Seahawks are coming today and bringing Thanksgiving baskets for all of our families.
Wonderful.
And so we're excited about that, because some of the players are coming and the families will get to meet them, which will be really fun. But we're not a food bank, so we typically will send them to a local food bank if they need food. But we do accept things for snack times and toiletries and pots and pans, clean sheets, clean towels, things like that. We love. One thing that we always run out of is little boys' clothes. So little boys are just really tough on their clothes.
I guess so.
So when we go into our resident store, we're pretty well stocked, but then you get to the little boys section and it's typically, not a whole lot of little boys' clothes. So that's one of the things that if you call Christy at our office, she can tell you what type of things that we need.
Oh, good point to stop and say how people can contact you. So you are on the web. People can look these up and find out more about Vision House. And I love the website, nohomelesskids.org, nohomelesskids.org, or a phone number, 425-228-6356. Did I get both of those right?
Yep, those are right. Great,
okay,
thank
good.
you.
Okay, now people have got their pencil, because I said it so fast. Ready to write them down, folks. nohomelesskids.org, and the phone number, 425-228-6356. Susan, we're talking with Susan Kammer, the executive director of Vision House. Let's talk about now the residents and what success is. And they're there for 18 months, 2 years. And what does it mean to someone, a mother and her child that's been there, used to be on the street, however they got there, whether it was some kind of domestic violence, loss of a home and no job, whatever. But after they've been there, how do you measure success, and what does that look like, and I'd love to hear how they feel, a person, what they tell you afterwards when they've moved out. And
we get a lot of thank you notes and a lot of stories. That's the best feeling, when someone is able to move out and not need us anymore. So that's a good thing. For the 3 of the past 4 years, 100% of Vision House families have transitioned to permanent housing, which is an incredible success rate.
Okay, now I'm going to make you say that again.
Okay.
That's a great number to hear.
It is. I feel so proud of our staff and so proud of the clients who've overcome such adversity to be able to become self-sufficient. So 3 of the past 4 years, 100% of Vision House families have transitioned to permanent housing, self-sufficiency, and a better way of life. We've been doing this for 20 years now. This November 12th was our 20th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And it's rare that our success rate is ever under 90%. And I believe it comes from those wraparound services, the individualized care that we give each family. And so it's just really a strong program and a strong success rate.
And do you love telling, I don't know, a story about one particular family or woman or two, or is there some particular favorites you tell that maybe demonstrate to people what it's like? Or
it's an old story because I haven't been in case management for probably 15 years now, but it's always my favorite story of a client that I got to work directly with. Now I'm a little removed from it. We've got 40 staff members and amazing people that do such a high level quality of work. Many with master's degree level, in their field, and so I feel so proud of them. But when we were a much smaller organization, and it was just my husband and I served as the case manager, and one of my favorite people that I worked with was Dorothy and Marcus, and Dorothy was had to put her child into the a crisis nursery because she couldn't care for her child at the street. So we set up an interview, and I was meeting with her. And when I pulled up to the house where I was going to interview her at, she was a mess. She looked like she had been sleeping on our front porch overnight. So we brought her into the house, and I started an interview with her, and just heard just the atrocities that had happened when she was growing up in Eastern Washington, and just the abuse. And her mom had several boyfriends, and one of the stories that just broke my heart that she told me is that when she was, about 10 years old, she came home from school one day, and her siblings were gone. And we could never figure out what that means that they were gone, and she could never remember either. So we don't know if they were adopted out or, she always lived with that, never knowing what happened to her siblings when she was growing up. And excuse me, I said she was 10. I think she was much younger than that. I think she was about 5 or 6. So in her mind, she always wondered what happened to her other siblings and her family. And then she always lived with that thought, am I next? Am I suddenly going to disappear as well? And there's abuse in her life. But when I was interviewing her, she just had these solid things that she was saying about her and her son Marcus, and she would say, I want a better life for Marcus. I want to be able to do these things for him. I want him to grow up, solid and smart, and to be a good father someday. And I just remember looking at her and going, Dorothy, you are saying such solid things. You are really going to be successful. You're making good decisions. You're coming into this program. You're making a commitment. You are really going to, change your life and Marcus's life too. And she just started to cry. And I realized that she had never been given any encouragement, considering the life, that she had lived. She hadn't really been given a whole lot of encouragement or support. So that's kind of where I believe that emotion was coming from. So she was accepted into the program, and along with Marcus, who was just a beautiful, beautiful little baby boy. And she was a success. She worked so hard, and got her education, got some training, got a job at King County, was able to use a subsidized child care center there. It was able to move out into permanent housing, and just this incredible success story. And it was just amazing to see this girl sleeping on our front steps because she didn't have any place to be, to suddenly, with a full-time job at King County with great benefits and, a place for her child to be that was warm and safe. And so that's just one of the stories that always sticks out in my mind is Dorothy and Marcus.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah.
And I guess that happens over and over again, but and people need to hear that. It's not just a number of people come in and a number of people go out. They're real people with real lives, and they find that hope for the future that this woman had bottled up inside her. And
you're making a great comment, real people with real lives. Last year in Washington State, men, women, and families with children were refused shelter over 46,000 times because there wasn't enough beds available.
Oh, boy.
So 46,000 times families with children were refused shelter. And when you talk about those are real people, real stories, I always am reminded that statistics are people with the tears erased. And if you think about 46,000 times that people were refused shelter because there wasn't enough beds available, it's just really astonishing. Real people, real stories, real crisis that the families are dealing with.
You talked about in that story of this woman getting an education. And let's talk about, one or two. We're going to run out of time in a bit, but one or two of those programs, whether it's education or money management, now that you have to handle your own money. Maybe a woman was married and her husband held all the money,
right,
abused her by never even letting her learn how to hold
which isn't unusual in a domestic violence situation.
So let's talk of that. Who are the people that give this training? How is that done? And
well, a lot of times, again, when you talk about volunteers, we bring in volunteers from local banks. We've had one local bank, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but they actually went through a money management series. And then at the end, they got a little bit of money to put into an account. So it actually started an account. And money management for somebody who is at poverty level isn't complicated. I mean, if we can just get them starting to save, $5 a month and eating at McDonald's a little less, not worrying so much about hair and nails, but just setting up those real basic level budgeting. So a lot of times we'll have volunteers, but staff is also trained to be able to come and do some money management with the clients as well.
Is something as simple as teaching them how to buy their own groceries and cook for themselves nutritious meals something that is lacking for some people?
Yes, it is. And sometimes we'll have volunteers, again, come in from the outside and do nutrition classes. And there's once a month cooking where you set up all your meals for a month and you freeze, small meals in the freezer so they're just ready to go. They're nutritious. They're economic because you're buying, a little bit greater bulk, to be able to freeze these meals. So yeah, we try to train them on nutrition and cooking and, those type of things as well.
Wow, that's great. That's a big thing. I want to touch on one more thing before we run out of time.
Okay.
It's not just women and their children. You also do some services for men, right?
Right. I've caught myself a few times. The greatest population that we serve is homeless single mothers with children. But I want to make sure that we're not sending the message out that homeless single dads with children are not important as well.
That's right.
And whenever we can work with a family with the mom, the dad, and the family all intact, I mean, that's great. There's nothing healthier for the child to have both mother and father figure in the home. So I want to make sure that I send that message. But the greatest population that we serve and the greatest number of calls that we get are for homeless single mothers and children. But we do have, as well as our family program, we do have a single men's program for men in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, which are in separate facilities also in the South King County area.
And what kind of professionals or what kind of treatment do you use when you say recovery from addiction? Is it something you do, or you know a right program and send them there, or how does that work?
They've typically come from a treatment program, so they have to show that they are clean and sober and they are committed to that sobriety. And then we provide very similar case management services that we do with our family program.
Okay.
So money management, crisis counseling if they need that, support, recovery, commitment to their sobriety, classes that we have on site, like I said, money management and that type of thing as well for the men's program.
I'm guessing that the case manager, this person who comes alongside and really one-on-ones with these people is the real hero in this story that convinces this person and teaches and says, you can make it. Here's what you need to do if you've never done this before. Who are those folks? I mean, let's give them a shout out.
Well, I'll give you a shout out. We've got Anne oversees our program. She's our family services director, so she oversees our program. She has her master's degree and very qualified. She has probably about 20 years experience working with homeless families. So you can just imagine how well she understands the issue of family homelessness. And she still works with a lot of families on an individual basis. She has her master's degree and just really well qualified and operates just such a strong program. She's the reason we've got 100% success rate.
So these are professionals that really work with these people.
Yeah. They're professionals that have been trained in their field. But not only are they professionals, they just have that incredible heart and that incredible compassion for seeing families succeed. And not everyone has that. I mean, someone might have kind of that business perspective on how to raise money and how to do the business side of Vision House. But to see those people that not only have the expertise, but also have that compassion, for families who are in crisis, I think is a really special attitude.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's give out the website again and contact information. It's nohomelesskids.org, and the phone number 425-228-6356. This is Vision House. We've been talking with Susan Kammer the executive director of Vision House today. Anything else we should say right before we run out of time?
No, yeah, you plugged our website, nohomelesskids.org, a few times, and we appreciate that.
I think people should look it up and find their own way to help out and donate either time or gifts or treasure or something. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for Susan Kammer for coming in today and sharing with us about Vision House, but really a bigger thanks for all that Vision House is doing for those in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Gary Scheib. Thanks for listening today. We hope you've learned something new. Join us again next week as we continue to talk with people that are making a difference in our community.